We want to wrap up our news review this morning, but of course we cannot do that without discussing the biggest politics or the political story of the day. And that has to do with what's happening in NASA and especially at the Senate. Raila fails to save Senator Wetangula. That's a highlight on the front page of the Standard. Or the stories on page 8. Raila attempt to save Wetangula hits a snag. On the Daily Nation, Wetangula senators defy Raila. Our decision on Wetangula is final, senators tell Raila. Now this is, we rarely get to see this where Raila Odinga is told no by members of his party, of his coalition. And hence the many questions. What's really happening in NASA? We do have a member from the Wiper party, we do have the deputy party leader ANC, we do have a member of ODM party. Defying Baba is unheard of. At least not within NASA, not within ODM. Yes? However liberal you may think, you cannot just openly defy Baba. These headlines are very unusual. Raila fails to save Wetangula. Raila attempt to save Wetangula hits a snag. Our decision on Wetangula is final, senators tell Raila. Wetangula senators defy Raila. What exactly is happening at the Senate?
Okay, I think this is happening in the Senate, and following this, I think a lot is happening that we don't know. And I would say that it's Mheshimiwa Wetangula, he went all over the country, you know, as a principal, doing his part, you know, during campaign periods. And yes, he was one of those you know, he did his part. Mm. But now I think it's come a time when senators are waking up to reality, that is NASA senators, that maybe they need one of their own.
Do you buy into that idea that Raila Odinga all of a sudden has lost his ability to convince these senators, or actually to point them in the direction he wants them to go?
I think there is a possibility that is happening. Because look at it, 2 hours meeting yesterday, and these guys say our decision is final, and Baba is seated there, even with my party leader, you know, and Principal Wetangula as well, and they seem not to convince the senators that they need Wetangula to be their minority leader. But more than that, I think this is more of ODM politics. Mm-hmm. And I feel for my party leader, who has vehemently come out and said we must reinstate Wetangula. My party leader says it is unfair, it is unfathomable that you can one day wake up and say a principal should not, you know, it is wrong. And I can tell you what is happening in Senate. For me, I think, and I want to believe that this is the end of you're not being this is it. Orengo will take it and they'll move on. But more than that, I think there's been a politics of.
Yet your party leader, at least your party, through Twitter, said ODM had crossed the red line.
Indeed. You know. And
by that they meant there will be consequences.
You know, let me say this. You know, the principles, we need to respect the principles. Yes, Senator Wetangula is the only one in Senate from Fort Kenya. Mm-hmm. But by the fact that he is the principal of NASA, and if we want NASA to hold together, mm-hmm. then we must respect these principles. And
so you do not necessarily support his ouster?
No, I do not. In fact, mm-hmm. I do not support the ouster. He should, you know, whatever ODM wants to do the politics. But I think the right thing is, what they did is wrong. They should not have done what they did. Mm-hmm. And but I want to believe that
there will be consequences.
You know, what is happening is there are challenges in NASA. It's obvious. Mm-hmm. There are challenges in NASA. You know, after the handshake, there is you know, everybody is trying to read so much out of the handshake. You know, the memorandum was read. There's no politics in that memorandum. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what is happening at the moment. Everybody is trying to read what exactly was this handshake. What is this that is in for the other three principles? And his ouster sends fear to the other two. Mm-hmm. It means
their position is not guaranteed.
Their position is not guaranteed. So I think honestly, this is wrong. And as an ASA parliamentarian and as a wiper, this is wrong. And if that retreat will reinstate Wetangula to his position, I think that will be the way to go.
Prof, there are those who say that this apparent inability by Raila Odinga to convince the senators is not genuine, is not authentic. That probably he's not exerting 100% of his influence. Probably he's just doing it lightly. That if at all he really wanted them to go a certain way, it would happen. But now the headlines we are reading, Raila is being told no, Raila fails, Raila this.
Let me say something that one of my colleagues said a few minutes ago. That I think everything in Kenya, as it happens and as we discuss and think about it, needs to be approached with a lot of sobriety. I think what is happening in NASA, I think I was here last week and I was telling you guys, hold your horses. In a house where there are many people, sometimes there is bound to be misunderstandings and clashes here and there. But to me, I want to repeat today, I'm sorry for whoever you may be offended out there, it is immaturity to give each other time to understand what the other person is doing. Like now the headline that you are talking about, you know, when this thing happened, everybody was interpreting it to mean that it was happening because of the handshake. And yet what was in the handshake has actually been given to everybody else. And what is there is nothing indicating in whatever was discussed between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila as to what Uhuru gains and what Raila gains. They were talking about what the nation gains. And the nation includes all of us. The ODM, the Jubilee, the ANC, the Ford Kenya, and everybody in this nation. Now, I think people are sometimes reading too much from nothing and wanting to give their own interpretations, which end up giving us wild allegations against each other. In my own understanding, I think what you are seeing, it is not that His Excellency Raila is not able to convince these people, but as the paper rightfully reports, that when they sat in this meeting, then there seemed to be deeper and heavier issues, not between the NASA parties, but the senators themselves with their head senator.
So it is purely a Senate?
Yes, that is actually the in thing here, and that's why the recommendation was, let these senators have a retreat. Meaning, according to me, yes, there are issues, but I think the meeting did not give them a chance to exhaustively discuss these issues and come to a genuine compromise where they feel every aggrieved party is satisfied. And I think we shouldn't say when there are such issues. For example, we have even seen cases of pending divorce or separations. When a husband still feels, no, I've not gotten my fair deal, I've not been understood in this thing, you can't force this marriage to continue. You need to give them time. And I think what I want to reiterate is this thing is simply something that is affecting the senators. What I want to highlight about it, the timing and when it was done, it may be what is wrong, because maybe these senators have been having their issues with their relationship with the principal as their head. Yes, and it just coincided. And I personally really think, I want to encourage my colleagues in NASA, let us give ourselves time to understand everything in its right perspective. We have Wetangula, the principal, which is the leader of Ford Kenya. We don't dispute that. And we know his contribution. We love his people. We need each other still. And we have Wetangula, the senator, the head of the Senate department. I mean, it would be wrong.
Separate the two.
Yes, let us try to separate the two and help the senators solve their problem.
But the principals appear not to be able to separate the two. Musalia Mudavadi, the leader of ANC party, is very well represented on this panel. Did not show up for that meeting yesterday. In fact, the indications are that ANC is looking at ways of working differently with ODM. How different that working will be, we still do not know. And his absence from that meeting said quite a lot. Do you believe that this is purely an issue within the Senate and the senators alone should be allowed to handle it, or do you think it affects the wider coalition?
Well, politics is dynamic. This dynamism does not start now. It started with the formation of states as we know in Westphalia in 1648, where certain issues may be seen to be totally independent and isolated, but there is a web that ties them together. Even before the formation of such states, in African society, we plow with oxen. And at times you donate one ox to a fleet of oxen, and you agree that you are going to plow in turns. And once we finish plowing my farm, I'll come to yours, according to the agreement that we had from the beginning of time. What worries me is that there is reneging on the understanding, because such agreements in African society were not written on any paper before even the advent of law as we know it today. But they were respected because it is your own integrity that is at a crossroads when you renege on any agreement. I want to advise my brothers and sisters in ODM that united we are formidable. But if we think of absolute numbers and say this man with one ox has no right for his farm to be plowed, the next rain will catch up with you and you will not be able to plant anything because that ox is missing in the link.
Is that to the senators or to the ODM party?
To the ODM family.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the way I'm looking at it, because I was part and parcel of the people who negotiated for the arrangement that we had in the run-up to the last general election. I was in the coordinating committee. And whatever is happening is totally at variance with what we expected. And to remind them that in a society that has an increasing popularity of bad manners is a society on decline. NASA cannot stand if we treat our principles the way we have treated Moses Wetangula. That is the position I hold.
But kindly give a clarity on the way forward from ANC's standpoint, because some days say that the ANC has already made a decision to work differently, in a different way, or to approach the relationship with ODM in a different way.
Well, such communication would come from my party leader. Really, I would be overreaching myself if I was to make it today.
But that decision, there is a decision that was made after the parliamentary group meeting.
We are still communicating with our brothers and sisters in ODM. Okay. And I would not want to say much more than that. Okay. But they should realize that Jubilee is celebrating. And I know my brother here is going to celebrate.
He's already laughing. Jubilee celebrating?
I don't think so. But you see, Mheshimiwa is cutting around one issue. And this issue is to call it as is. You know, ODM realizes they have the numbers. Baba realizes he, still commands a lot of, a lot of chunk in this nation, and it goes all the way to his numbers in both Parliament and Senate. And what he is trying to, tell Wetangula softly is that this is a done deal, and it really brings a very weak picture, if I may call it, for Wetangula to again run to Baba expecting salvation of getting his minority leadership in Senate. I think NASA, in my own view, ceased to exist after Uhuru Park, and it was designed just as much. If you break the tapes and you listen to the late Nyenze, what he warned Wiper leader against, it has come to happen. And many other people who said, we've come up with an MOU, 2022, we've locked out any ODM presidential candidate. We knew that was not going to work. And, the chickens are coming home to roast. So I think from where I'm seated, Weta needs to be happy that he's still the senator of Bungoma. And I think that will be enough for him for now. He needs to accept that. It does not matter how many conferences they attend, how many retreats they attend.
It is a done deal.
That's a done deal. And you see, I like one thing that people have now started to talk in the open. said, you cannot continue hanging on Baba's coat for all this long. The man has taken the beating, has taken the mudslinging, the whole 9 yards, and you guys enjoy the, the fruits of his labor. One person put it the other day on Twitter, and he kept laughing about it. He said, you know what, you cannot charge to be the manager of a cattle dip if you only have one cow. Yet the people who have, a lot of cows, you want to string them out from that particular intake. So I think what is happening in this regard is this. Raila has not been defeated, or has not really been, or we cannot say he does not have the powers.
So you
to
do not
say
believe that
no.
the ability to convince
No. What Baba, it's a soft tune. Yes. Telling Weta, you know what, this is the position, and you must line up to that. And I'm sorry for Weta. It is politics, like Weta has said. It is politics. And the dramas about a divorce to be messy.
Let's do it this way. I'll give each of you 30 seconds. Final comments, a quick 30 seconds. Just give your final comments. Start with.
On politics,
or on any other issue, you could choose to go politics.
Let me go on the unemployment. What we didn't talk about today was in page 6. There was good news for top civil servants that head of public service has written to parastatal chiefs and said at 60 you can be reappointed, you can continue as long as you know. And I feel this goes against what you're talking about.
If you're talking about poverty and unemployment.
Poverty and employment above 60, and there's a law that says, after 60 you retire.
Yes.
Why should you continue appointing above 60 and yet there are young Kenyans who are willing, who are ready, who are qualified to take up these jobs?
Yes. That headline has been highlighted on the front page of the Standard. The story is inside on page 6. Read it for yourself. 60-year retirement rule. Exclusion for some senior parastatal chiefs. Yes, Prof? Final comments?
I'm very happy that sometimes we refuse to get a reality. I would like to say something very quickly, that we shouldn't always want to see our leaders and dictators as dictators who must dictate even to their followers what they must do. I am of the opinion that we should actually allow room for that genuine convincing, where people also can be allowed to air their grievances and they are listened to. Meanwhile, I want to appeal to all and sundry that our nation is at a critical stage. I'm not happy that a kind of hospital of Kenyatta status, which has attracted a lot of fame in the past, is going down the drain, and we are going down the drain with it, because all the East African community, countries, in the past they have come to Kenya to solicit help in the medical and many other areas. I think all Kenyans, whether we are in opposition or government, it is important that we know that if we don't do anything about our systems, right from the grassroots to the top level, we are actually going down the drain, and it is high time we arose to save ourselves from the situation.
Thank you. I'll allow Kipruto Rapkiro to have the final word on this panel. So, Gabriel Muduma, have your go.
I think it's not something we've discussed today, but I think the signing of the visa-free movement across Africa, I think that should come as a good sign of things to come. When we are talking about the unemployment, when you're talking about what the challenges that Africa face, opening up these borders, I can guarantee you we have free movement now. A young guy who thinks he has a product that he can sell in Tanzania or Uganda or any other area is free to do with that movement. I think if we treat this as a good opener, Fred, I think we are heading in the right direction, and we'll be heading in the right direction.
It will also help with the jobs.
I'm telling you, yeah. We need to receive it and open our minds, and I agree with you. Poverty is in the mind. I think people need to take that. Yeah.
Finally, Kipruto Rapkiro.
Yes, I do want to say this. I personally believe that the handshake between the President and former Prime Minister Raila is something useful for this nation. But for us to actualize that, we need each and every person, because I think that handshake was hinged on two things: serious reforms that can assist this country to run away from the political upheavals that we have had after every election. Number two is national reconciliation and eventually cohesion. which has been lacking in this country for the last 50 years, since independence. We need each and every person if those two aspects have to be attained, because Kenya is at a crossroad, because we don't have serious national cohesion, and we have not embedded in our mind a serious reform agenda dispassionate from the political intrigues of the day.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. Kipruto Arap Kirwa, Deputy Party Leader, ANC, Gabriel Muduma, Jubilee Strategist, Pamela Odhiambo, Woman Representative, Migori County, and Danson Mwashako, MP Wundanyi, helping us understand the headlines this week. A very nice cocktail of headlines to look at: the politics, the shame of unemployment, and of course the crazy happenings at Kenyatta National Hospital.